Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're looking at how to install and use actions in Photoshop. As always, I'm using some design cuts assets, and in this case the Duotone Photoshop Actions by Skybox Creative. Now I'm going to show you how to install these actions and how to use actions in Photoshop, and also a couple of things that you should do before you actually run an action on an image. So with that in mind, let's look at some of the things that we need to be concerned about when installing actions. There are basically three methods that you can use to install actions. We're going to look at two of these methods, but I'm going to discuss all three of them with you just so that you know what's what. Method one is quick and easy, but it isn't robust. If you reset your preferences, your Photoshop preferences, you might lose those actions from the Actions panel. And the problem's going to be, where are they? Now, because the actions will typically be left in your Downloads folder, that's not a great place for them to be, because there's a chance that you might say at some stage, oh, I don't need those actions here anymore. I've already got them in Photoshop. Delete them, and then when you go to reinstall them, they're not where they're supposed to be. This is not a method I recommend, but I am going to show you how to do it. Method 2 is relatively easy and it's fairly robust. The same thing will happen. If you reset your Photoshop preferences, you might lose the actions from the Actions panel, but reinstalling them is pretty easy. The actions are going to be located in a Photoshop Actions folder inside your Programs folder if you're working on a PC, and inside the Applications folder on the Mac. So this is a fairly robust and, for me, probably the recommended solution for most people. I'm going to show you this solution. The third method isn't easy. It does require a knowledge of your operating system because actions are going to be installed inside a hidden location, and you have to be able to find that hidden location. It is, however, a very robust method. Now, as with the other methods, if you reset your Photoshop preferences, you might lose the actions from the Actions panel. There's no way of getting out of that. But reinstalling the actions will be easy. If you're interested in this method, the locations are in the description below. Actions here are going to be installed in a Photoshop Actions folder inside the hidden App Data folder on a PC, and in a folder inside the hidden Library folder on a Mac. As I said, this is a sort of guru solution. If you're really good with your operating system, then please use this. It's the best solution. But for most people, method 2 is going to be the obvious choice. Now, before you can install your actions, you're of course going to need to download them and unzip them. Most actions are going to come in a zip file, and here are the Duotone Photoshop actions that I have downloaded, and they're in a zip file. On a Mac, you would just double click the zip file and they're probably going to be unzipped for you automatically. On a PC, double click on the file, and if you see an option for extract all files, then you're going to click that to extract the files into a folder, and that's going to allow you to access them. Now I'm going to leave that folder open for now, and we're going to swing across to Photoshop. Once you've opened up Photoshop, you'll want to show your Actions palette, so go to Window and then Actions. We're going to look at method 1 for installing actions first of all, and that is to click on this flyout menu and choose Load Actions. And then you'll go to the folder where you just unzipped your actions into, and this will be a ATN file. That's what an action file is for Photoshop. Select it and click Load. And the actions are then loaded into your Photoshop Actions panel, and they're accessible to you, and that is method 1. Of course, if you're going to use method 1, do not remove those actions from the Downloads folder, or if you do, put them somewhere where you know where to find them later on in case you lose the actions from the Actions panel here. Let's have a look now at method 2, and this is, I think, the better method. I'm going back to my Windows Explorer so that I can see the actions. I'm just going to go through so that I'm picking up this actions ATN file. Now I need to copy that, so I'm going to select it, right click and choose copy, because I need to take it to where it's going to stay. For this I need to go back to my computer, so I'll go to Computer. You'll double click on your C drive and go and locate Program Files. So double click on Program Files, and then you'll double click on Adobe. You'll have a whole list of Adobe applications, and you want to select the one that corresponds with the version of Photoshop you're actually using. Right now I'm using Adobe Photoshop CC 2019, so I'll double click to open that folder, and then we'll go to Presets, and then we'll go to Actions. And these are the actions that are installed in this Preset Actions folder. I'll right click and choose Paste, and that will allow me to paste in the action that I copied to the Windows clipboard. Now I'm using a special copy routine. You can use just the regular Windows copy routine, whatever pops up when you right click and choose Paste. And so my actions are now installed in a location that Adobe Photoshop CC 2019 knows about. So let's just close that dialog. Back in Photoshop, there's a quick and easy way to install that set of actions that we've now placed in a location that Photoshop knows about, and that is to simply restart Photoshop, which is what I'm going to do now. As soon as Photoshop is restarted, from the Actions palette, we can click the flyout menu, and the Duotone by Skybox set of actions now appears in this area of the dialog. These are the actions that were installed in that location, and simply closing Photoshop and reopening it makes Photoshop have another look at that location and determine that there is another set of actions there. So I can click on that to install it. While it might take a couple of minutes to close and reopen Photoshop, that's probably the easiest way to install those actions. So we're going to look shortly at exactly how we would use those actions, but in the meantime it's time to step across to the Mac and see how we'd install actions on a Mac. I have Photoshop already open on this Mac, so I'll choose Window and then Actions to display the Actions palette. Method 1 is the quickest and easiest, although not recommended method for installing the actions. Click the flyout menu and choose Load Actions, and then use this Finder window to locate your actions. Now mine are stored in Downloads. I have them in a Design Cut Assets folder. Here are the Duotone actions. Let's open them all the way up. Locate the Actions file and click Open. And that installs the actions into the Actions palette. As I said, this is not highly recommended. So let's see method 2, but before I do that, I'm just going to remove the actions from this palette so that we can install them a different way. To do this, I'll close Photoshop. I'll go to a Finder window and locate the actions I want to install. So they're going to again be in my Downloads folder. So I'm just going to progress through the folder to locate the actions I want to install. Now I need to copy them. You can use keyboard shortcuts. I'm just going to choose Edit and then Copy. I can close the Finder window at this point. The actions are copied to the Mac clipboard. Now I'll locate the Photoshop icon on the dock, and I'll hold the Command key as I click on it. That opens a Finder window at the location where this version of Photoshop is installed. So this is the Photoshop app, and here is my presets folder. You'll open that and you'll locate the Actions subfolder. Double click on that to open it. We're going to paste our action into this subfolder alongside a number of other actions that are already installed in it. To do this, choose Edit Paste Item. I'll type my password, click OK, and confirm that the Duotone set of actions has been installed into the Actions subfolder for this current version of Photoshop. So I can close that dialog and we'll simply restart Photoshop. I'll press Escape to hide that tour. Now the process of reopening Photoshop after we've installed those Duotone actions in that folder that Photoshop knows all about is to ensure that the actions are now going to appear on this flyout menu. So when I open the flyout menu, there's a group of actions here that were all in that folder, including my Duotone actions. So I'll simply click on that set of actions to add it to the Actions palette. Even if these actions are removed from the Actions palette, they're still going to be in this flyout menu because this menu lists all those sets of actions that are in that folder. So it's very easy to reinstall them later on should you need to do so. The process of using actions in Photoshop on the Mac is exactly the same as on the PC, so let's head back to the PC. Now that you know how to install actions in Photoshop on both a PC and a Mac, let's look at how you would use actions. The process is the same for Windows and Mac. I happen to be using a Windows computer. I'm also using some Design Cuts assets. Let's have a look briefly at where the photos are coming from. This is the 100 plus high-res photos volume 3, and I'm using some of the images from this particular collection. Now, before you run an action, it's wise to do a couple of things. One of them is to save your work, particularly if you've made any changes to your file. So you'll go to File and then just click Save. I can't do that here because I haven't made any changes to this image. But if you had made changes, there's a second way that you can protect yourself, and I strongly recommend this, and that is to save your work again, this time giving it a different name. So I'm going to choose File and then Save As, and the name I'm going to give this file, it's already image 93, I'm going to add edited to the end. And this will give me a second version of the file. It's the same as this one here, but we're going to be working on a copy, which means that if the action does anything strange, and actions can contain save commands, then I won't be at any risk at all of losing my original work if I don't like what the action did. Now, the actions we're looking at, then that's not the way they're going to behave. But you can download actions on the web, and you may not know who has designed them. You may not know how they work. And if you want to protect your work, do that. Save your work and then save it, giving it a brand new name. Make sure that you're using the version that has the brand new name, which I am here. And then you're protecting yourself pretty well against things going wrong. So let's look at our actions. I'm going to choose Window and then Actions, and these are the actions that we just installed. These are the Duotone by Skybox. So if you see it just as a single line in your Actions panel, click the disclosure triangle here, and this will show you the full range of actions, and there are lots of them. They're numbered in this case, and each action applies a different color look to your photograph. Now, for this image, I happen to like lavender and cream, so I'm selecting lavender and cream here, and then to apply it to the image, I'll click once here on the play button. And this is the result. It's an action that applies a gradient map across the image, and it's applying lavender to the darkest areas of the image and cream to the lightest areas of the image. We can see a little bit of this through the Layers panel. I just tapped the function key F7 to open up the Layers panel. This is the original image, and this is the gradient map that has been applied to it. Now, every action operates in a totally different way, so you're not necessarily even going to see any visible changes in the Layers panel, even though the image itself might have changed. So just be aware of that. The other thing to be aware of is how you're going to undo things if you don't like how things look. You can do one of a couple of things. You can close the image and reopen it. The other thing that you can try, since we're working on a duplicate of the original image, we're not working on the original image, we're not going to undo too much. If we choose File and Revert, and that will take us back to the image as it was when it was opened. So just be aware that you need to undo everything that was applied through that action before you go and try a different, for example, action or color combination in this case. This time I'm choosing muted yellow and brown. Click the play button, and this is the result. Again, the same gradient map is applied, that the colors are different. If I want to undo this, I'm using File Revert because it's just quicker and easier, and then I can try another combination of colors until I find what I like. Now, the action's not doing anything that you couldn't already do in Photoshop, so you can just go ahead if you find something you like and save the file and do with the file whatever you like. Actions are really just a way of speeding up the process, and in this case giving you some awesome color combinations to work with that you can just apply with the click of a mouse. Now, the actions, once they're installed in Photoshop, are going to be available for every image that you have opened. So I have another image open. Let's go to Window and then Actions. And again, we can apply a different color combination to this image. I'm choosing bright blue and purple for this one. Just click once. But of course, I should have saved this file, and I should have, to protect myself, have saved it, giving it a slightly different name before I applied the action. But I'm aware that that is something that I should do and in normal circumstances would do. So I hope that that's helped you understand how you can install and use actions in Photoshop. I hope you've enjoyed learning these Photoshop techniques. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the tutorial. Until next time, I'm Helen Bradley for Design Cuts.